Hi there guys, I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech, and in this video I'll be unboxing and doing a hands-on review of the Asus ROG Phone 3. So guys, here's the box. Now before we get started, let's have a quick look at the basic information. So this is the new Asus ROG Phone 3, which is the next iteration for the ROG Phone 2. In India, it's available in two variants. Base variant is priced at 50,000 rupees for 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. Next variant is priced at 58,000 rupees for 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. It's available only in one color, black grey. This is a review unit and we have the base variant with 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. By the way, you can buy it online exclusively on Flipkart. Now this ROG Phone 3 has a lot of cool features. Well, top-notch performance comes without any doubts. Besides that, you also get a display with 144Hz refresh rate, 8 triggers 2.0, a massive 6000 mAh battery, which by the way also supports 30 watts hypercharger, and you also get new motion sensors, better front-facing speakers, and a lot of cool stuff. So without any further delays, let's get on with the unboxing. So here's the box packaging. It definitely looks pretty cool. On the front it says ROG Phone 3, a pretty cool design. On the left side it says ROG Phone 3. On the right side once again it says ROG Phone 3. At the top you get a pretty cool design which says Republic of Gamers, and this is the bottom part. And finally on the back side we have some specifications, IMEI numbers, pricing and so on. Now with the unboxing. By the way, this is a review unit, so it looks kinda bad. So once we open the box, we have another cardboard box which says for those who are deaf, and let's open it up. Inside we have SIM card ejector and some documentation, IMEI number stickers. This is once again IMEI number stickers, a lot of stickers from ROG, and a bumper case which looks pretty cool by the way. Now let me put that aside. Next we have the phone itself in plastic wrapping. Following that we have a 30 watt power adapter and a USB Type-C charging cable. This is a Type-C to Type-C charging cable which we rarely see. And you also get a Type-C to audio jack converter, and that's pretty much it. So guys, these are all the contents of the box. Now let me just put everything aside and come back to the phone. Let me remove it from the plastic wrapping. So guys, this is how the phone looks on the front, and this is how it looks on the back. It definitely looks pretty amazing. Now let's have a physical overview. On the back, this phone has a 3D curved Corning Gorilla Glass with pretty cool patterns underneath. At the top we have the camera module with a triple camera setup, followed by a single LED flash, microphone and an additional light for other accessories. Following that is the ROG logo, and it says Republic of Gamers. On the right side we also have a vent along with a pretty cool pattern that says aerodynamic system. On the front you have a massive display protected by a 2.5D curved Corning Gorilla Glass 6. Above the display we have a pretty big bezel with the front facing camera and the earpiece, which also acts like a secondary speaker. And below the display it's completely plain with a pretty big chin and the secondary dual speaker. Now for the sides, on the right side we have the air triggers on either sides, and at the center we have the volume buttons and the power button. And the power button also has a nice accent color which looks pretty cool. On the left side it has a SIM card tray housing 2 nano SIM slots along with 2 USB Type-C ports. One of these is for charging, so you can play games while charging at a very comfortable position, and the next one is for the accessories. And it's also protected by a rubber sealing which actually is pretty hard to remove for extra water resistance. At the top it has a secondary microphone for noise cancellation, and finally at the bottom it has a primary microphone and the USB Type-C charging port. Now this phone has a thickness of 9.85 mm and weighs 240 grams. In hand it definitely feels thick and has a bit of weight to it. And from my personal experience of using the ROG Phone 2, I can say it just takes a little bit of time for you to get used to the overall weight of the phone. Now let's try out the case that we got inside the box. This is just a hard bumper case. It's not even complete, it just tries to make your phone look much more cooler by offering some extra protection and additional grip. On the back, this case doesn't provide any protection for the camera module. In fact, the cameras are protruded outside. So when you place your phone directly on its back, cameras are in contact with the surface. So that's something to look out for. And as for the front, it is a tiny raised lip for the display. So when you place your phone directly on its face, display is not in contact with the surface. There is at least a tiny bit of gap. So overall, this case definitely looks cool, but when it comes to protection, it's pretty negligible. So I would definitely recommend you to get a better case. Now these are the complete specifications of this phone. On the rear, this phone has a triple camera setup with a 64 megapixel primary camera with f1.8 aperture, followed by a 13 megapixel ultra wide angle camera with f2.4 aperture and 125-degree field of view, followed by a 5 megapixel macro camera with f2.0 aperture. For selfies, it has a 24 megapixel camera with f2.0 aperture and 77.9-degree field of view. On the front, you get a massive 6.59-inch AMOLED display with HDR10 Plus support, 144Hz refresh rate with 19.5:9 aspect ratio, 650 nits of normal brightness and 1000 nits of peak brightness. It's also HDR10 and HDR10 Plus certified. And finally, the display is protected by a 2.5D curved Corning Gorilla Glass 6. Under the hood, it sports a Snapdragon 865 Plus processor with Adreno 650 GPU with up to 12GB of LPDDR5 RAM and up to 256GB of UFS 3.1 storage. Right out of the box, it will be running ROG UI 3 based on Android 10, which is pretty close to stock Android. Finally, powering this device is a massive 6000 mAh battery that supports ROG Hypercharge that comes with a 30 watts hypercharger inside the box. This phone also has front-firing 7-magnet stereo speakers powered by Dirac and NXP amplifiers. It also has a quad mic setup for better noise cancellation. So guys, those were all the complete specifications. Now let me turn on the phone and set it up and come back to you in a second. So guys, this is how the phone looks once we turn it on and set it up. By default, I have chosen the classic theme. That's why it looks like this. Now let's check the storage section. So out of that 128GB of storage, we get about 108GB of space free right out of the box for our user apps and user data. Now let's check out the about page. So this phone is running Android version 10 right out of the box, and as of now it has a July security patch, which is pretty good. Now let's check out the camera interface. So this is a camera interface for the rear camera, and by default it's using the primary camera, and you have a toggle here to switch between the primary and the wide angle lens. Now we are using the wide angle camera. For a quick perspective, this is the primary camera and this is the wide angle camera. It's definitely pretty wide. Now besides that, on the right side we have the regular portrait mode for the rear camera, and we can also change the amount of background blur effect you want before taking a picture. Next we have panorama, and following that is a dedicated night mode, and you can use the night mode with the primary camera and even with the wide angle camera. By the way, I forgot to mention, even when you're in the regular photo mode, when lighting conditions are bad, you can see a small indicator over here. So this is for auto night mode. So in the situation when you take a picture, it automatically takes the picture in night mode. That is, it takes about 4 seconds to capture the picture. For some reason, if you don't want that to happen, if you want to take a regular picture, you can disable it from here. And now it takes a regular picture. So that's auto night mode for you. Well, that's probably not what Asus calls it. Anyway, that's night mode. So that's the same thing over here, and we can see exactly how much will be the exposure time. And we can use both the primary camera and the wide angle camera to take night shots. Next we have the Pro mode with all these controls, and we can use both the primary camera and the wide angle camera in the Pro mode. And finally we have the macro mode. Now if we go to the left side, we have video recording, and we can record video with the primary camera and even with the wide angle camera. And even while recording video, we can switch between the primary camera and the wide angle camera. So pretty great. Next we also have a new feature called Hyper Steady mode, and you can access it from here, and you will get a much more stable footage in this mode. And this mode works for both the primary camera and the wide angle camera. Now this is kind of a unique feature that's available on this phone. Usually most phones switch to the wide angle camera, while on this phone you can use it with both the primary and the wide angle camera. Next we have motion tracking, and that works pretty well as well. As you can see, it's tracking the motion pretty well. So that's motion tracking. Next we have slow motion video recording, which uses the primary camera. Next we have time lapse, and finally Pro video. And this is again another cool feature offered only on this phone. Now let's check the camera interface for the front camera. So this is the default interface. This phone just has a single camera. There's no additional dual camera setup. Considering the huge bezel on the top, I think Asus could have pulled off dual camera setup. On the left side, we have the regular video recording mode. There's nothing new. And on the right side, we have portrait mode. That's portrait selfies. And once again, we can change the amount of background blur effect you want before taking a portrait selfie. So guys, that was the camera interface, and these are some sample shots. Now let's check out the fingerprint scanner. I've already set it up, and here we go. Fingerprint scanner is super fast, it's pretty accurate, and it's definitely usable. Now let's test face unlock. And once again, face unlock works pretty fast. Now let's test it in complete darkness. In complete darkness, it is a bit slow, probably by half a second, but it still works. So guys, that was the face unlock feature, and both are pretty fast and pretty usable. Now let's check the speaker loudness. By the way, this phone has dual stereo speakers. So guys, that was the speaker loudness. Honestly, this phone has incredibly loud stereo speakers, and unlike most phones which usually have a speaker at the bottom, this phone has dual stereo speakers that are front facing. So while you're watching videos, it gives you a great experience, and there is a slight bit of bass to it as well. So overall, audio experience on this phone, especially via speakers, is really good. So obviously there's going to be no problem with ringtones and alarms. And once again, it's going to be great for media consumption. Now this phone, being a gaming phone, has a lot of cool features, and most of it are bundled into a single package called Armoury Crate. And you can access it using this application. So this is how the interface looks like right out of the box. This is the games library where you can check out all the games. So as of now, I've just installed PUBG and Asphalt 9. Next, we have console section where we can tweak a lot of settings related to overall performance. So first we have X mode, which is like a pre-configured mode for better gaming experience. Everything is preset for the optimal results. Next, we can also go with custom settings where you can tweak each and every aspect related to your phone, whether it's the overall performance, sensitivity of the screen, and so on. Next, if you scroll down a bit, you can see settings related to air triggers. Now this phone has two air triggers on both sides. So here are the air triggers, which I've shown you earlier. So they have multiple functions right now. They have single tap. So single tap is a regular tap. Next, we have dual partition, where each air trigger is divided into two parts, left and right section. And it works pretty well as well. Initially, I thought this feature might be pretty ridiculous, not usable, but in fact, it's definitely usable. You just need some time to get used to it. Next, we have swipe settings. So we can swipe on it to perform actions. Once again, it really works. Next, we have slide settings, and this is really surprising because it's pretty sensitive. So once you get used to these 8 triggers, this can definitely boost your overall gaming experience and probably help you perform better. Next, we have settings related to fan speed. Well, if you get an accessory related to the fan, you can control it from here. Next, we have the system lighting settings, and that's got to do with this lighting on the back and any other accessories that support lighting effect. So we can choose different profiles, you can change colors and put up a lot of schemes to see different kind of lighting effects while you're doing different actions. I know it sounds a bit complex, but you just need to have a little more patience and time to understand all these settings. Next, we also have this cool featured section, which actually lists all the games that supports all the features on this phone. For example, we have the 144Hz section. So these are the games that actually support 144Hz. Next, we have 120Hz. These are the games that support 120Hz refresh rate. Next, we have gamepad. So if you have a gamepad, these games are going to be great. Next, we have twin view. And finally, these are the games that support 8 triggers. Well, you can use 8 triggers with any game, but these games work really well. So that was the Armoury Crate. It really packs a lot of cool stuff, and you should definitely check out them personally. Next, this phone has a 144Hz refresh rate display, and by default it is set to auto. You can change the display refresh rate settings from display settings, and right over here we have all these settings. Right out of the box it was set to auto, but just to make the video look much better, I put it at 60 Hz. Now let me show you what happens when it's at 144 Hz. So at 144 Hz, display refresh rate goes up, and because of that it looks something like this on video. Now this is 120 Hz, it looks still pretty decent. This is 90 Hz and this is 60 Hz. And when you increase the refresh rate, obviously battery life goes down, but considering this phone already packs a huge battery, it's definitely not going to be a problem. So overall, I would suggest you to stick with 144 or 120 Hz, or if you're lazy, just stick with auto. So these are the two most unique things that are offered by this phone, and you have the regular stuff like a dark mode. You can access it from display settings once again, and on this phone it's called a system color scheme. From here you can enable dark mode, and once you enable the dark mode, most of the UI elements change to dark theme, and even some of the stock applications like Google Play Store automatically enable the dark mode. Next, we also have navigation gestures on this phone, and to enable that you can go to settings, display settings, scroll to the bottom and select system navigation, navigation gestures. Now once you enable these gestures, you can swipe from the bottom of the screen to go home, swipe and hold for recent apps, these are your recent applications, and you can swipe from the left side or right side to go back a step. Finally, for Google Assistant, you can swipe from the bottom left corner or bottom right corner to trigger Google Assistant. Let me do that once again. And that's Google Assistant. Now besides that, you can also swipe left or right on this bottom bar to quickly switch between applications. Now these gestures are available on all the phones. I just want to show you that navigation gestures are available on this phone and they work really well as well. So guys, this is the new ROG Phone 3. It looks pretty similar to ROG Phone 2 but with quite a few upgrades, especially with that 8 triggers, overall performance, better cameras, and literally a lot more. With that said, it still has gaming at its core. So if you're a gamer who loves to play games, or if you're a gaming enthusiast, then this phone is definitely a great choice for you. By the way, even if you are not a gamer who's looking for a phone with great performance, great battery life, and awesome dual stereo speakers for media consumption on the go, then you can also definitely consider this phone. So guys, what do you think about this phone? Do let me know by commenting below this video, and if you're planning to buy this phone, use the link in the description. It always helps the channel. If you want us to make any specific video, tweet out to us with the hashtag AskGreedyTech on Twitter and we will try to get back to you as soon as possible. I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech signing off. Have a nice day.